answer between the candidates and the moderator. There will be no questions fielded from the audience, and the chat feature for this Zoom meeting has been disabled. For the best experience, I encourage the audience to hit the speaker view in the top right corner of their screen. This will focus your screen on the person speaking and not the audience. Today's forum will be moderated by Rotarian Orit Astrowiak. Originally from South Africa, Orit now resides in Coronado, where she is the proud mother of 2 daughters. Orit exemplifies the diversity of our Coronado Rotary Club. She is a past board member, a leader, and an entrepreneur presiding over her own business, the O2 Effect, specializing in international training, coaching, and speaking. Her clients include thousands of professionals from all over the world, striving to be leaders across genders, cultures, and generations. I am pleased to present today's moderator, Orit.
Thank you very much, Robin, and thank you very much to Coronado Rotary for providing a professional, respectful, non-biased forum. And we're going to hold ourselves and the candidates to the highest of standards, and maybe the rest of the country can follow our lead. So here are some of the debate rules. In keeping with the spirit of William Shakespeare, let us draw upon his famous line from Hamlet, "Brevity is the soul of wit." So candidate answers need to be brief and to the point. They will have 1 minute to answer each question at the end as well. Candidates will have 2 minutes for their initial introduction, and I will give a 30-second wrap-up warning if needed. After each personal introduction, candidates will have 1 minute to answer each question, and I will give a warning at the end of the minute to tell them to wrap it up. There'll be about 8 or 9 rounds of questions depending on time. The candidate order will change after each round. The first round will be alphabetical. I'm sorry, Mike Donovan. I will now introduce the candidates in alphabetical order according to last name. Mike Donovan, John Duncan, Tim Rohan, and Casey Tanaka. Now I'm going to have each candidate present their introduction in alphabetical order. You have 2 minutes, and again, I will give you a warning when you have 30 seconds left. So will you please kick it off, Mike Donovan?
Well, thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. First, I'd like to thank Rotary, President Robin, for having this forum, and thank you, Orit, for moderating. Orit, I've never had a chance to tell you this, but I really love your accent. So my name is Mike Donovan, and I'm running for re-election to a 2nd term on the City Council. It's been a privilege to serve as a council member for the past 4 years. In 2016, in my last campaign, I ran on my background and experience, including my 30 years of Navy experience, both active duty and reserve, along with my 30+ years of corporate business experience, working in a multi-billion-dollar corporation where I held several different positions and ended up running departments amounting to over 100 employees and a budget of over $100 million. I also did my homework, and I did that by attending virtually all the council meetings and city commission and committee meetings in 2016, as well as other agency meetings across the bridge. This year in 2020, I'm running on my record and my continued advocacy for residential quality of life. As a council member, I am still doing my homework, fully researching the issues, getting input from city staff, residents, subject matter experts, and my own research. While not everyone may agree with me, I've always strived to explain the logic
30 seconds.
in my positions. I look forward to responding to the questions that we're going to be presented here today. And again, I thank everybody for attending.
Thank you. Okay, that was nice and succinct, much appreciated. All right, in alphabetical order, our next speaker intro is going to be from John Duncan.
Thank you very much. I am very happy to be speaking to Rotary. I really do appreciate your motto of service above self. It's something that I strive for. I'm not always successful, but I do strive for that. And my grandfather was involved with Rotary for many, many years and was president of Los Angeles Rotary back in the 50s. So I think he'd be proud of me having the chance to speak with you today. Just a real quick background on what I've done volunteer-wise in Coronado. I moved here well over a decade ago with my wife and my 4 young children. My son Connor at the time was 6, and I have triplets that are now 15, but at the time were 3 years old. When we moved here, I immediately began coaching baseball. I was asked to serve on the baseball board of directors and served there for a couple years. I was coaching soccer, served on the soccer board. Volunteerism is something that's really important to our family. I continued to volunteer, to manage select travel teams for soccer. I was appointed to the Bicycle Advisory Commission for 2 terms. I saw Dan Orr on here today, and I served with him. Good to see you, Dan. And it's just something that now, after having practiced law for 25 years, I'm ready to volunteer full time. And that's really one of the reasons I'm running for city council. I believe I can bring a lot of energy, a lot of time, and use my analytical skills
30 seconds.
that I used practicing law and solving cases and looking at issues that were fresh and new that were presented to me, and solving those as a problem solver that can listen. So I look forward to answering the questions today and diving into the issues. Thank you for allowing me to introduce myself.
Thank you very much, John. Well done as well, keeping in the time. Okay, our next candidate is Tim Rohan.
Tim, you need to unmute.
Oh, Tim, can you unmute yourself, please?
Oh, we'll start it. Sorry about that.
Okay, I'm restarting. Ready, go.
First, I wanted to thank Rotary for putting on this forum. I think it's really important that the residents of Coronado get to know the candidates, and you're helping do that. Unlike what some people think, being on council is not rocket science. Let me explain. In my mind, council's job is to vote on the immediate issues that will shape Coronado's long-term direction. There is no way anyone on or running for council can understand all the nuances of every issue. What we should do is bring together the most knowledgeable, experienced, and involved people and include them in the decision process. We should have staff research and report on all sides of issues, and those reports should be made public. If that is not enough, we should hire consultants who truly understand the issues as it applies itself to Coronado and enlist their advice. However, before we bring in paid consultants, and this is where I think the breakdown has occurred in Coronado of late, we should use the best resource Coronado has, which is her residents. We truly have the most knowledgeable, caring, loving group of consultants living right here. We just need to trust them enough to involve them. Then we just have to be smart enough to listen to them. As a 58-year resident, I have a true long-term perspective of the issues in Coronado. In my mind, being on council is about building community involvement. It's about getting people together and giving them the space to educate us. I might suggest that the wastewater treatment plant is a great example of the hazards of failing to include our residents.
30 seconds.
If Coronado had trusted and had listened to its residents, a full EIR would have been done, and most all of these economic and environmental questions would have been answered. Council would then have been able to make a good decision rather than trying to justify a really incomplete one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Tim. All right, and our final introduction today will be from Casey Tanaka.
Hi, thank you. First, I want to thank the Rotary Club for having us together. I want to say that it's exciting to see so many familiar faces, people I've had a chance to work with over the years. Many of you have taught your kids. A couple of you I went to school with. So again, it's a real privilege to be here today. I moved to Coronado in 1983. My parents are Mel and Karen Tanaka. My dad retired in the 1990s from the Navy after a little over 30 years. He retired with SDV Team 1, and he also did some time with UDT 12. My mom was a preschool teacher at Resurrection Lutheran at 5th and Orange for about 16 years. I am a product of the Coronado school system. I went to Coronado schools from 2nd to 12th grade. I mentioned this the last time we had a forum. If I was a mean little kid, I apologize. I see Doug Weisbarth here. He ejected me from a Little League game once for a really bad karate slide. I promise I won't do that if elected. But in any event, I went to UCSD after Coronado High School. My bachelor's degree is with honors in history. I have a minor in political science. Maybe most importantly, I've been teaching at Coronado High School since 1999. So this is my 22nd year teaching at the high school. I am also the former 50th mayor of the city of Coronado. I served for 8 years as mayor, and I served on the city council a total of 14 years, starting in 2002 and ending in 2016. When I left office, I was happy to take a little break, but when things got bad pandemic-wise around the world and in Coronado in March, I started to think about how important decisions were going to be made in these coming months and years, and I decided I decided that I wanted to run for the city council again because we need experienced people now more than ever. And not just experience, but people who understand our city's people, the city's history, and also understand how the government works. So if you'll have me back, I would be honored to be your councilman again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, thank you, gentlemen, for staying within the time limits. So now I'm going to move on to the questions. And the questions basically come from people in the community. And we've worked on which ones we think would be the best for this forum. I'm going to start off with the first one. And again, each question is going to have a 1-minute answer time period. I'm not going to give you a warning, but I'll cut you off at 1 minute. And we're going to go alphabetically again, starting with Mike Donovan. The question is, the first one is around tourism. How do we balance the increasing influx of tourism with the needs and desires of Coronado residents? Give one specific plan that shows you support this balance and discuss the details. Okay, are you ready, Mike? Okay.
All right, thanks, Orit. Well, the magic word, and you mentioned it, Orit, is balance. We need to balance tourism with the impacts that tourism has on our residents. I would say that the businesses in Coronado, there's very few that can survive on resident business only. So they do have to depend on some tourism. So the ways we help mitigate the impact of tourism on the residents, for example, in the summer, we have the free summer shuttle, which takes a lot of cars off the streets, lessens the impact on parking, those sorts of things. So I think our businesses are important, and we don't want to go back to the way it was in the early 80s where we had a lot of open storefronts, because that doesn't serve our residents either.
All right, thank you very much. And as a guideline, that's a perfect 1 minute, everybody. That's what it feels like. Okay, so next person to answer, we're going to have, again, alphabetically this round, John Duncan.
Thank you. I think this is a great question because at times people try to frame the issue as residents first or homeowners versus tourists or homeowners versus businesses. And I don't really see it that way. They're all necessary. Obviously, the residents are the most important thing in our community, and we must mitigate the impact of tourism on the residents. But to specifically give you a response as to something that I strongly support and have written about and submitted in letters to the editor, I support mitigating the impact on Orange Avenue via more increased police foot patrols. It was tried recently, and I thought it was a great thing for the community and relations, as well as considering hiring street ambassadors, one for each side of Orange, that are very frequent in many tourist areas, to see if they can lessen the impact, not only in regard to following the rules, but as well with the pandemic situation that we find ourselves in. Fortunately, given the end of summer, it's already reduced somewhat right now, but we all know it will be coming back in the not too distant future. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Nice and succinct. All right. The next one we have is Tim Rohan. Unmute yourself, Tim.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute again.
Okay.
Well, I would preface this by saying this would be in a post-COVID world, because I think that we are in a strange place right now, and we do need to support business probably more than we need to, in a year or two when COVID is gone. I would take a look at Discover Coronado. I would certainly change it so that we are not advertising for day trippers, which we have gone back to because of COVID. I would also try to amend the directives with Discover Coronado so that more of the money is being used not just for advertising, but that money is also being used for projects that help the residents of Coronado as well as business. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Well done. All right, and last but not least, we have Casey Tanaka.
Would you mind restating the question just real quickly?
No problem. Okay, so how do we balance the increasing influx of tourism with the needs and desires of Coronado residents? Give one specific plan that shows you support this balance and discuss the details.
Thank you. Sorry about asking to restate it. One of the things that when I first became mayor in 2008, it was right after the economy had suffered a large recession. And so Todd Shallon, who was the head of the Hotel Del at the time, came to me and suggested that we should consider forming a Coronado and Tourism Improvement District. And we did. And we even formed a second one to let the 4 biggest hotels keep 1% to tax 1% of their extra TOT tax, and then to use it to try to improve the number of hotel stays. And one of the things that they've done over the years, they were told stop advertising to day trippers. And so they did. They started targeting conventions because it would have less impact on our city. And now they're focusing on people having staycations. So I think that is the smartest way to try to help our businesses, but also keep our residents first and to maintain the balance that the other candidates have talked about. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. Well done, everybody. I love how everyone's sticking to the time limits, and you're doing it really effectively. All right, so for the next round, we are going to change the order up a little bit. And just so you know, this round is going to be John Duncan, then Tim Rohan, then Casey Tanaka, and then Mike Donovan, just so you know what's coming up. And the second question for the day is related to COVID-19. It seems that COVID-19 is going to be with us for a while. What specific new policy would you recommend to help us through the pandemic going forward? Or do you think the route we've taken has done its job?
That's another great question. Thank you. I believe that the City Council has done a good job. There are some things, but to be fair, no one exactly knew what COVID was and what it was going to do. I'm very grateful and thankful that outdoor activities seem to really have extraordinarily low transmission. I would support looking beyond what we've done so far to see if we can increase outdoor opportunities for our businesses. I already mentioned the increased foot patrols on Orange, and I am a big supporter of the City Council policy of handing out masks. I think compliance, urging compliance, helping compliance is definitely the way to go. I'll just mention very quickly, relinquishment is coming up, hopefully in the next year, of our major streets, including Orange. I believe there'll be opportunities to serve our community with some outside the box thinking in regard to what we can do outside on Orange at certain times. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. The next person to answer is going to be Tim Rohan. And again, if anyone needs me to reword the question or to say it again, let me know. Tim, you unmuted yourself. That's good. All right, ready, go.
Regarding COVID, I would like to see mask enforcement with a meaningful fine on Orange Avenue, in our parks, and on our beaches. I think we need to follow science, and that's what everybody is saying is the most important thing to do. We're not through this. It's supposed to get better before it's supposed to get worse before it gets better. So I think those are really critical things to do. I'd also like to see the city become more involved in education, both on the the website, but actually outreach by having things in the the Win Room and at the library and educate people to the advantages of wearing a mask and how it's going to keep businesses open and it's going to keep Coronado safe. Thank you.
All right, great, thank you. All right, Casey Tanaka, you're up next. Do you want me to re-ask the question or you got it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay,
First, I want to compliment the City Council. I think some of the decisions they've made recently have made a big difference. Particularly, I'm impressed with how much the city has worked with restaurants and businesses to try to shift their models outdoors. I think one of the keys during this crisis is to try to move things outdoors as much as possible. I think one of the areas where the city is going to be challenged with public policy in the future is, on what terms can we reopen things that are indoors safely? That's the area where I think masks are more important, and making sure that whatever rules we come up with, that we do enforce them indoors, because I think that's really where the transmission problems are the worst. And then lastly, I want to say a lot of the rules come from the state and the county. So the city's job, to a large extent, I think, is to enforce and comply with those rules. And if there is some wiggle room, that's where we get to assert other public policy. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, last one to answer for this round is Mike Donovan. Take it away, Mike.
Thank you. Yeah, and again, the word balance is key here. I mean, we need to continue the balance that we put together as we evaluate what's going on with this pandemic and with the ability of our businesses to reopen in a controlled manner in order to stay in business, quite frankly. As Casey's already mentioned, we've done some things to allow businesses to move their work outside. For example, waiving some of the parking requirements so restaurants can serve in the parking areas, letting some of our fitness businesses use our parks, our beach. And I would say, the success is in the results. And if you look at the data, the last 3 months, we had a pretty high July, which was a busy month, and we were still getting our feet on the ground. But August, September, October, our numbers are moving in the right direction, and they continue to head down. So again, the results kind of tell the story.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to the next question, and the order for this round 3, is going to be Tim Rohan, then Casey Tanaka, then Mike Donovan, and then John Duncan. All right, question 3 relates to climate action. Many cities have created climate action plans, including Coronado, yet climate action plans are largely roadmaps to future actions and fail to make immediate impacts on the environment. One swift action the city could take to show leadership in climate policy is to implement a ban on single-use plastics. Is this something you would support? Okay, everybody got that?
Yes.
All right, so Tim, you're up.
Yeah. Yes, I would certainly support that. I would like to have some sort of break-in period, obviously. I mean, I think that goes without saying almost, so that businesses can switch over without it being too much of a hardship. But I think it's a smart thing to do. I think it's one of the most critical things we can do. I am a little taken aback by that Coronado's done a climate action plan. I don't really think we have, or if we have it, it's not much of one, because it's something I think we really need to do and need to do a better job of. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Tim. All right, the next person to answer this question is going to be Casey Tanaka.
Hi. To answer your question, no, I would not, as a council member, support a ban on single-use plastics. I think it's really important for council members to have a sense for what the community wants them to take the lead on, and to also be aware when the city isn't speaking with one voice. And I have to say, I don't feel like I have a large number of people asking me to take that action. What I do think is appropriate is if there starts to become a public pressure to do something like that, I think it's much smarter for the council to put something on the ballot and then let the public decide. How I would vote as a private citizen is different than how I would behave as a council member on that. And like I said, I haven't seen a strong enough indication that a majority of our residents want to move in that direction. With that said, I think what the council can do is we always need to be in the process of reflecting on what we're doing, whether it's a climate action plan or something else, and try to figure out, are there better ways to do what we're doing either financially or in this case in terms of leaving less of a footprint and an impact on our environment. And last, I want to thank Emerald Keepers for taking the lead on this issue as well.
Thank you, Casey. All right. And then last person to answer here is, oh wait, we've still got, sorry, we've got two more. Mike Donovan, you're next.
Right. Thanks, Ari. Yeah, as far as climate action plan goes, this council initiated the development of a climate action plan early last year. So that's being done. And I expect that the draft will be coming out first half of next year for public comment. We'll have more public forums on that. As was already mentioned too, well, first of all, let me say that rather than dictate things like this, where we create ordinances to restrict different things, because we don't really understand the full impact on our businesses, I prefer to use incentives to help drive behavior. And in this case, Emerald Keepers is a perfect example of bringing to light the issues that single-use plastics cause. I participated in some of the forums that Emerald Keepers have put on, and they've been very effective. I think they're doing a great job. So the other thing I'll mention is the city is
Okay, your time's up. So just wrap it up, Mike.
Just quickly, the city's not waiting around waiting to see what comes out of the climate action plan. We've taken a lot of different, we've done a lot of different things to help reduce greenhouse gases. I'll leave it at that. I can amplify on that later on.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, and we now have John Duncan. Just unmute yourself, please.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. I think that right now, with the stresses that the business community is under, would be a terrible time, and the stresses I'm talking about are due to COVID and the reduced ability to frankly earn money and keep themselves in business. I think it would be a very bad time to force them to comply with a new policy without researching it. I do think it is an admirable goal. I do think we should work towards it, but I would really need to see what would the cost be to the businesses, how long would it take to comply, and whether or not it's frankly possible for them to do it. I will echo what some of the other candidates have mentioned about Emerald Keepers. After meeting with Emerald Keepers, one of the things that I really have great respect for the organization is that they don't make it a political issue. They don't make it a partisan issue. They try to bring in all sides and say, hey, what can we do to preserve and protect our oceans and our beaches and the environment? And I think, and I hope we're all on the same page. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. All right, well done. Moving on to the next round, and this round is round 4. It's going to be Casey Tanaka, then Mike Donovan, then John Duncan, and then Tim Rohan. And this question is going to relate to Coronado schools. Schools are important to Coronado as a town. What is the role of the city, if any, in keeping the school district strong for the sake of the town? Please provide specifics in your answer. So first up, we have Casey Tanaka, which is, I'm sure very near and dear to your heart.
It is. One of the reasons I'm running for the city council is I think it's important to have people on the council who understand the youth of the city and families. And so many people, they move to Coronado specifically for the chance to send their kids to these schools. And I'm certainly proud to be one of the teachers who works in those schools. I think one of the things that the city has been proud of for decades is that the city council votes to fund a great many programs to help the schools or youth in Coronado. They generously fund Coronado Safe to provide counseling services to kids and families in this city. They fund the crossing guards, they fund tutors, they fund counselors. The city pays the school district money to get some of their football field type of public facilities open for the public to use. And I would support continuing in those ways to try to find ways where we can maybe open up some of the school district's facilities to the public, and if we have to pay for that usage, so be it. So I would continue on the path the city has carved for the last 2 decades.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, Mike Donovan, you're up next.
Yes, I know the schools are struggling a bit, mostly in the financial area. And the reason for that, real briefly, is because they can't get to basic aid where they get their full state allocations. until the redevelopment bonds and loans are paid off. So the main thing the city has done to help the schools in the last year, where we went through an arduous process with the state to refinance the bonds and loans that are still hanging around from redevelopment. And we've shortened that payoff time. I think it was originally 2034, and now it's down to 2026 or 28. So we've cut 6 to 8 years off of that payment schedule, which will absolutely help the schools get back to basic aid quicker. And the other things we've done, you know, the city can't give money to the schools because one municipality can't give money to another entity. And I'm out of time, but we do different things. We provide police service officers at our cost. We pay them an annual fee to use facilities and that sort of thing. So I fully support the schools, and I feel we're doing everything we can to help them out.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, John Duncan.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a very, very important issue. I am a father. I have 4 teenagers living in my house right now, and youth is a huge issue for me, not just the schools, but youth athletics as well. But specifically, as to your question, I don't have any major disagreements with what has been said. There are some ways to try to think outside the box a little bit to help the school district get through this period, the next 5 years or so. One of which could be that if the city is, and I don't take credit for this idea, but I support it. The city could potentially advance pay for the usage of some of the facilities that the city is using. Yes, I realize the city has a budget crunch to a certain extent, or reduction in revenue due to COVID and the TOT taxes. Fortunately, the Dell will be reopening. It'll be larger. There'll be more taxes. I think we'll get through this period, and we need to make decisions to help the school when we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, Tim Rohan, final answer on this question.
Thank you very much. This is a huge question, and thank you very much for asking it. I think the city should do whatever we can do to help the schools. Part of that could be, you know, increasing the rental of the fields that Coronado pays. That would give them a little bit more money. We certainly should renegotiate the rental of the tennis courts on 6th and on D Avenue. The city is basically paying nothing for either of those courts. We do maintain them, but we're not really giving anything to the schools for that. We should be doing the full funding of SAFE, not just partial funding of it. And we should also become more creative and do things like maybe leasing rooftop space to put in solar panels, things like that. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, now we're going to go back to the original order, which was, it's going to be Mike Donovan, John Duncan, Tim Rohan, and Casey Tanaka. All right, the next question is going to be a meaty one. It's about the water reclamation or sewage plant. So the water reclamation or sewage plant on the golf course is currently a big issue in Coronado. First, do you think all possible additional costs should be included when evaluating this project? Second, in the event that the project does not ever provide an overall savings to residents, is the project still a prudent long-term investment? Okay, do you need me to read that again, or is everyone good?
Yeah, I'd appreciate it one more time. I didn't quite catch the first part of that.
Okay, so the water reclamation or sewage plant on the golf course is currently a big issue in Coronado. First, do you think all possible additional costs should be included when evaluating this project? Second, in the event that the project does not ever provide an overall savings to residents, is the project still a prudent long-term investment? Okay, got it, Mike, because you're first.
Yeah, thanks, Arit.
Okay.
Well, first let me say I fully support this project. We've studied this thing for, well, at least the last 8 years, and this idea is not new. It's come up as far back as 30 years ago. This is a sustainability project. There's no reason we should be using potable drinking water to be watering our golf course and Tidelands Park and our medians. So after doing, you know, comprehensive evaluations of groundwater, where the groundwater is, what the legal aspects of who has the rights to the groundwater, this is absolutely the right thing to do. There is a payoff. If you are an investor, the payoff is longer than you'd like it to be, but there's more than a financial payoff here. And the payoff is that it brings local control for us to be able to irrigate our parks and golf course, which in the future, that may not be the case if we're depending on potable water to do that. The state can stop that.
Okay, can you wrap it up?
Yeah, my wrap up is we absolutely need to do this project. And if people don't think we've studied this enough, I urge them to read fully the studies that have all been done in the last 8 years. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mike. All right, John Duncan, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. So,
okay, you're on.
Two-part question. First part is, not only with this project, but with any project, yes, you have to look at the projected costs and then any other potential outside issues or costs. You take it all into consideration. It doesn't mean you don't lead and you just let fear destroy a project, but yes, you need to analyze all the facts. Particularly as to this project, whether I support it or not, yes, I support it. Do I have concerns? I have concerns about the visual impact, how the facility will look. Is it going to be underground? Is it going to be a massive visual blight to the residents on Glorieta and to our community? So yeah, I have concerns, but those concerns, I would have to be shown that those negative things are true before I would consider withdrawing support or not participating in moving this project forward. So just one last comment. In regard to the watering of these areas, the golf course in particular and some of the other areas in Coronado have a portion which is owned by the port, and it's important for us to protect that and keep our usage going. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we have Tim Rohan. All right, ready, go.
Yes, all costs should be considered, and they should also be realistic. I mean, they're saying that it's going to be a $25 million plant. Everybody I'm talking to is suggesting at least 35 and probably more in the neighborhood of 55 to $75 million for the plant. They're also not talking about the cost of laying the purple pipe, which Cal-Am's going to pay for, but then it's going to be billed back to the residents of Coronado. That's somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 to $25 million in purple pipe costs. The electrical costs alone are going to be $800,000 a year to run this water. There was a great article that just came out in the Eagle this morning about the costs of the water. It's going to be 80% more for the water that comes out of this plant than buying potable water, which wouldn't cost us a dime to run any pipe. So yeah, there's some serious issues here. There's also the earthquake issue that is being built on an earthquake fault. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and last but not least, we have Casey Tanaka.
Well, I support the concept. The concept is to stop using something like 30,000 gallons of drinking water on the golf course every day, another 20,000 gallons at Tidelands, and so on. So of course, I'd like to come up with a way to switch away from that. Also, the sewer system that our city is in, we get charged for how much sewage we discharge into the force main that goes under the bay and into the San Diego metro system sewer grid. So theoretically, you could kill two birds with one stone. You could use less drinking water on the golf course, and you could pay less as a city for sewage if you reroute the sewage, pull out water that can be put into purple pipe, and water the golf course with it. What is unanswered, as far as I can tell, is exactly how much it's going to cost, and are the engineering details worked out. So those are details that I would, until I join a council and see what details are in front of me, I can't say yes or no on it, but I can certainly say yes in the general concept of not watering the golf course with drinking water and trying to find a way to discharge less sewage into the grid. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, now we're going to move on to the next question, which is actually question 6. And the order is going to be John Duncan, Tim Rohan, Casey Tanaka, Mike Donovan. And the question is, I've made it a little shorter question. What could the City Council do to improve Coronado's sense of community?
A great question. Thank you. That's a great question. I think a lot of people really did enjoy 92118 Day. And I think some of that criticism of that event at the start was not well founded. It turned out that they did generate some revenue and returned it to the city. I think community events like that are extremely worthwhile. They show the type of things that I'm thinking about when I think about relinquishment, which I mentioned earlier. There are group community activities that we can do. Of course, COVID presents huge challenges. You know, I miss the summer concerts in the park, which are down the street from where I live. I don't miss the people blocking my driveway, but I miss the community aspect of it. So I'm a proponent of more community events and bringing us together. We have the holiday parade, we have the 4th of July parade. There's other things that we can do. And if we can find a way that they generate some revenue to mitigate the cost to the community, those are the type of things that I would like to look at. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Tim Rohan.
Yes, I actually think Coronado does a really good job of having concerts in the parks and things to pull the citizens together and to create a great sense of community. I think where we have been a little lacking is in involving the citizens in council and in the decision-making process and in basically the governance of Coronado. I think at this point in time, that's probably one of the most divisive issues everywhere. And so I think if council can do things to bring people into the process, that will do so much to help bring Coronado back together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Casey Tanaka.
One of the things that I found important in the years where I was the mayor or a city council member is to try to be the city's cheerleader, to try to, you know, do my best to celebrate people's events, their functions, and I try to find a way to say yes to people's requests. That could be a request to meet with you. That could be a request to hear them out on something. It could, and 92118 Day was mentioned. The city council, the current one, deserves credit for finding a way to say yes to that event, to give everyone a chance to gather around Isabella and Ocean Boulevard and to celebrate our city and our unique zip code. And so I think that continues to be the challenge of the Coronado City Council is to, if you want to build a sense of community, be part of the community in as many ways as you can, do more than just show up to a city council meeting, and really do your best to listen to people's concerns and to act on them. And you know, I guess the one sad thing about being a council member is sometimes when you have a meeting, you have to explain to someone why you can't do something. But again, I'm going to try to do my best to find a way to say yes to people's requests.
Great, thank you very much. All right, and then Mike Donovan.
Yes, thanks. Well, first of all, I think, trying to set my clock. So first of all, I think our city staff and our nonprofits do just an outstanding job of community events. I mean, everything from the flower show, the 4th of July, the library book sale, the Christmas parade, all of those things are put on in cooperation with our nonprofits, and then city staff creates community events as well. I thought 92118 Day, it's already been mentioned. I thought that was a resounding success. It was a little tenuous because of the timing. Actually, when we got that kicked off, I was concerned about whether we'd be able to pull it off, but the team that did that did a fantastic job. The only other thing I'll mention is when relinquishment comes through, I think we will have an opportunity to look at some other types of community events when we get control. We might be able to do some things in our business district to help promote community.
Great, thank you very much. All right, moving on to our next question. And the order over here will be Tim Rohan, then Casey Tanaka, then Mike Donovan, and then John Duncan. And this question relates to transportation. How would you bring a better balance to Coronado's transportation uses, specifically discussing the active transportation plan and the mobility commission? Okay. And I'd like Tim Rohan to kick that off, please. And just unmute yourself, Tim. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think that the, I don't know, I go back and forth on the whole traffic issue. I do think that the summer shuttle is a great idea. I think it gets a lot of cars off the street. I support that very much. I do think that we should run it down to the Ks. I think if we did that, the ridership would increase down there. Plus, I just think it's so exclusionary not to do that. And I think often the K's residents feel like second-class citizens. Above and beyond that, I mean, I thought we should speed up traffic, and then I changed that 5 years ago and said, no, what we need to do is we need to slow traffic down everywhere to get people out of their cars. It's a question way beyond me, but I do think it's something we really need to work on, and that we really need to admit there's a huge problem and do whatever we can to alleviate it. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. All right, next person is going to be Casey Tanaka.
Well, I think the reality of our traffic problem, one of the realities at least, is we have too many people that just drive by themselves in a car. And I'm guilty of it. We all know what the problem is, but we don't necessarily do more or do enough to try to improve that problem. In the years I was on the council, we pushed trying to create more opportunities for people to use their bicycles. And also Rotarian Al Overham was the one that proposed that we start a free summer shuttle. And I remember at the time being dumbfounded because Al is one of the cheapest people I know. And so that he wanted to give something away, I was glad to be around that day. But yeah, I'm just joking now. But in any event, I think those are certainly things that we need to focus on. Again, how do we get people out of their cars? How do we get people out walking or taking their bikes? And the summer shuttle is another example of a good government idea to try to give people that incentive to, again, ditch their car and to do something else to not be a single occupied car, at least for that day or that afternoon. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Casey. All right, Mike, you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thanks. Well, one of the things I'm most proud of that we accomplished in the last 4 years while I was on council was we developed an active transportation master plan. That was a big deal because there were so many different points of view, so many different ideas, so many different concerns, but we were able to come forward with an approved plan, and we've already started to implement various projects that came out of that plan. In addition to that, I've also been a strong advocate for traffic calming, which was not really part of the active transportation plan, but traffic calming as far as vehicles go. And we've asked the Mobility Commission to kind of take the lead to put together a traffic calming master plan that would first of all identify and prioritize areas that could use some traffic calming and provide a toolbox of different ways to get traffic calming.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, and lastly on this one, we have John Duncan.
Can you go ahead and give me the question one more time, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So how would you bring a better balance to Coronado's transportation uses, specifically discussing the active transportation plan and the Mobility Commission?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm a big supporter of biking. And by that, I don't mean what people call the spandex mafia taking over all of Coronado's streets from the outside. What I refer to is the residents who live here and our visitors using their bikes as much as possible. When I served for years in the Bicycle Advisory Commission, which was a predecessor to the Mobility Commission, I was a big proponent of smart improvements that would help, such as more bike racks, bike lanes, but not bike lanes that are 16 different colors all over the place, but bike lanes like the one down the street from me that runs on 6th to the school, which has no visual blight and is only used by residents and people on, not in huge cycling groups. But finally, I just want to mention real quick in regard to what Mike said about traffic calming. Relinquishment will help with that. And I look forward to the mobility plan's recommendations. But when we take control of streets that are dangerous like 3rd and 4th, we'll have some options on things we might be able to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, President Robin, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. Do we have time for one more question, or do you want me to just do closing comments?
Let's get one more in so we get the 8 we promised.
Okay, all right. So question number 8, and the order is going to be Casey Tanaka, Mike Donovan, John Duncan, Tim Rohan. All right, our final question. To what extent do you think our Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA, has to do with Coronado not joining other South Bay cities in the lawsuit with regard to the Tijuana River Valley? What 2 specific next steps should Coronado taking to address the allocation? I know that was long. Do you want me to read that again?
No, I think I can handle it.
Okay, so Casey is going to start off with that one. Ready, go.
So I think that Coronado is generally not that popular in San Diego County. I think Coronado is generally not that popular in Sacramento. There has been a housing crisis in the state, at least proclaimed by leaders in Sacramento and so on for decades. When I first joined the city council in 2002, so about 18 years ago, there was a housing crisis then. It was predicted that the population in San Diego County will double every 30 years and so on. So that's a problem that everyone recognizes. I think that Coronado not joining that lawsuit contributed to ill will, and I think that's part of why we lost a regional vote. I don't think we should hang our hat that was entirely to blame, but Rotarian Tom Smizek was mayor of Coronado for 12 years. I was mayor for 8. And for those 20 years, we had a great relationship with the South Bay. And I think one of the keys to that relationship is to be there for others when they need us. And by not joining IB's lawsuit and everyone else joining in, even the port and the city of San Diego, I think that made us look bad and gave other people reasons not to vote with us when we needed them.
Okay, thank you for that answer. All right, next up on that is Mike Donovan.
Yes, thanks. Well, I have to say I totally disagree with this concept or this narrative that there's some retaliation against us because we didn't join the lawsuit. The main reason for that is IB started the lawsuit and they didn't get their appeal approved either for their RETA numbers. So I don't know how you can make that case, but you know, we have a good relationship with South Bay cities. Our mayor meets with the mayors. I think they have a monthly luncheon. They get together and they confer. So I totally reject that. As far as going forward, the city has exhausted all the administrative appeals that we could do to get this number changed. So we submitted a lawsuit on October 25th against Sandag.
Time's up.
We've asked a judge to review, and we've pointed out where this was totally unfair. And by the way, the other 3 cities that had appeals are part of our lawsuit as well. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, John Duncan, your thoughts.
Thank you. This is a huge issue for me in regard to the housing situation, the unfair allocation, and the flawed process that was used. But the city has filed a lawsuit, as Mike mentioned, and I was a big supporter of that happening, even though I'm an attorney and I don't like a lot of litigation. It's very expensive. This was a final remedy. The lawsuit has been filed. Imperial Beach, Lemon Grove, and Solana Beach have joined us. As to the specific relationship, I think it's really a false narrative to say that Imperial Beach is so angry with us for choosing to enter into a voluntary agreement with Imperial Beach, where both cities signed as to what Coronado was going to do, giving them funds to help fund their lawsuit, while Coronado sought a diplomatic solution. Not having someone seek a diplomatic solution would have been ridiculous. We all know that the Trump administration doesn't take kindly to people suing them and not speaking with them. $300 million was achieved in the USMCA via diplomatic pressure. Yes, the lawsuit probably helped too, and that's great, but it does not mean we ruined our relationship with Imperial Beach, our co-plaintiff in the current lawsuit against Sandag. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Tim, you're up. Just unmute yourself. Tim, you're still not audible.
There we go.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Was our not joining the sewage lawsuit, the reason that that Imperial Beach, dislikes us? Probably not. I mean, it's not the only reason, certainly. It's been building for some time. As far as them not disliking us, well, I've spoken with 4 different people who are very good friends with the mayor of Imperial Beach, and they all flat out said, no, they don't like us. When there's a joint benefit for Imperial Beach joining with Coronado, they'll do it. I mean, obviously, it'd be stupid for them not to. But when there is not, I certainly wouldn't count on their vote. And I think that's true everywhere. I think that Coronado should be doing the lawsuit that they're doing, but I also think that we should be going in different directions, saying things like we don't have the sewage capacity to have these additional 1,000 units, and that is a specific exemption within the Sandag rules. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, everybody, believe it or not, we've come to the end of the questions. And now we're going to take closing comments from each one of you, and we'll go back to our original order. It'll be Mike, John, Tim, and Casey. And you've got a minute, but if you want to do it in less than a minute because we're kind of running low on time, that's okay too. So Mike Donovan, will you kick off your final closing comments? Thank you.
Yes. Thanks again to Rotary for arranging this, and Arid for you moderating, and also for everyone who's attended and listened to what we have to say. As I mentioned in my opening, I'm running for re-election on my record and continued advocacy for residential quality of life. I have a full understanding of the issues facing our city and the passion to solve them. If fortunate enough to serve another 4-year term on the council, I will continue to be accessible and responsive to all residents of Coronado and ensure everyone understands the logic behind how I arrive at my positions. My background and experience in management and leadership is detailed on my campaign website, as is my voting record for the past 4 years on council. I invite everyone to visit my website at MikeDonovanCoronado.com, or feel free to contact me directly at MikeDonovanCoronado@gmail.com. Again, it's been an honor to serve on the council. I respectfully ask for your vote to represent you for another 4 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. All right, John Duncan.
Thank you so much. I am extremely excited to be running for council. One of the main reasons I'm running is I would like the opportunity to represent Coronado on the outside boards, either as the first or the second backup person. Many people don't realize that Coronado does have representatives on Sandag and on MTS, and outside pressures on Coronado are not just possibly happening, they're happening, and they will continue to happen. And Coronado needs strong advocates who will spend a significant amount of time representing Coronado. I am fortunate to have practiced law for 25 years. I am basically retiring from practicing law and looking forward to hopefully volunteering my skills that I've used to represent some of the largest corporations in America for years to represent Coronado. I believe I bring some unique energy, freshness, and strong work ethic to the council. I do not believe people should serve on council for 20 or 30 or 40 years. I believe we should utilize the talent in this town and have fresh, strong leaders. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, Tim Rohan.
Okay, first, I'd like to thank Rotary for putting on this debate. As I said before, it is so important for the residents of Coronado to get to know her candidates. By the way, I played for the Rotary-sponsored Little League team when I was 10, 11, and 12 years old. That was probably 68, 69, and 70, something like that. Anyway, my candidacy is much about winning an election the right way as it is about winning an election. That is why I have committed to spending $6,000 or less on my campaign, why I have pledged to turn down any endorsement money, any personal help from a political party. I'm the only candidate for council to make that pledge. That is why I win or lose this election with honesty, integrity, frank and open communication. I win or lose with the residents' interest in my heart and the long-term good of Coronado in my mind. Thank you for listening. Please vote.
Thank you very much. And finally, we have closing comments from Casey Tanaka.
Thank you. Thank you, Rotary, again for having us and giving us this chance to speak with you. Coronado is going to have some difficult days ahead. And I think because of that, Coronado needs to try to put its best possible city council together. So I offer you 4 reasons to consider voting for me on November 3rd. First, experience. Do you want someone who clearly knows how to do the job and can do it well? Second, trust. You're putting 5 people in charge of a city with 10,000 voters and 24,000 plus residents. You need to have confidence that those are people that are going to always put your best interests at heart, and then combine having your best interests at heart with the know-how to get things done properly. Third, you need someone who's accessible, and I'm always there if people have emails, questions, they want to ask me something at Smart and Final. I love that part of the job, and that's another reason I'm running, is I want Coronado's government to be accessible to its people. And last, if you're risk adverse, why would you not vote for someone who knows exactly how to do the job? So if you're a conservative person and you don't want to put training wheels on someone, I'm too fat for training wheels, but I'm ready to go to work for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everybody. Well done. And I'm going to hand the meeting back to President Robin McCarty.
Well, thank you, Ari. Thank you, candidates, and thank you to the audience. This was a fantastic forum. I'm very proud of the Rotary Club for doing this. I want to thank Ray for providing his Zoom genius. I want to thank Orit for her incredible job of moderating. Next week, we have the school board forum. Please spread the word. This is important that the community gets to meet these candidates and hear their views. And most importantly, I know everyone in this group is going to vote. So get out and enjoy the rest of your Rotary week. Thank you all. And Ray, that's a wrap.
Thank you.
You got it. I'm going to end the meeting for everybody. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your day.